So you survived the 3-day Desi wedding, the biryani, the lamb karai, the mithai, and the gulab jamun, the whole shebang, right? And then Monday morning comes, right? So you drag yourself to the bathroom, you stand on the scale, and the number hits you 3 kilos up, maybe more. And in that exact moment, your brain does what it always does, right? It tells you you've ruined everything and all that hard work gone. One weekend and you've undone weeks of progress. So that guilt lands heavy, and most people do one of two things from there. They either starve themselves as punishment, or they think, what's the point? And they just keep eating badly for the rest of the week. I know I've done that before. Here's what I need you to hear before anything else. That number is not fat. Most of it has absolutely nothing to do with body fat, believe it or not. And in this video, I'm going to quickly break down exactly what that number is made of, why your body does this after a big eating weekend, or even after a meal. And the one thing that actually turns a temporary blip into real fat gain, right? Because biryani is not the problem. What happens in your head on Monday morning is the problem. Let's get into it. So the very first thing you need to understand is something most people have never been taught, still to this day. Your scale does not measure body fat. Despite the ones you might see in Boots, it's a load of nonsense. Everything, your bones, your organs, your muscles, the food physically sitting in your digestive system right now, and all the water your body is currently holding, all of that combined into one single number is what's coming up on the scale, right? You need to understand that, because when you stand on the scale, it's not going to tell you your body fat. So when you eat more than usual across a big weekend, your total body mass goes up. Normal, but that is not the same as your body fat going up. They're completely two different things. Your bathroom scale cannot tell the difference between them. Right? Weight gain doesn't happen because you had one massive, wedding weekend or one huge iftari, but your scale will absolutely make it look that way. And that's the illusion we need to break. So what is actually inside that 3 to 4 kilo jump? Now there are 4 ingredients, not one of them is body fat, right? I can guarantee that. The first is gut mass, which is simply food residue, right? So the biryani you ate at 11 on Saturday night has not vanished. It's actually physical weight and it's still sitting in your digestive system. So people tend to think that the following morning when they wake up, the food's been digested. No, it takes time. That mass counts on the scale. The second ingredient is glycogen, and this is the one that explains most of the jump. So when you eat more carbs, so your rice, your roti, etc., than your body normally handles, the excess gets stored as glycogen in your muscles and your liver, okay? So water and stored carbs, basically. This is normal and healthy. The third ingredient is water that travels with the glycogen. And I'll explain that in detail in a moment because it's the most important piece of this. And the fourth is sodium-driven fluid retention, right? So this kind of ties in sometimes with people on their menstrual cycle where you've got water retention, but then you crave, salty foods as well, and that can cause your weight to go up as well. So wedding food, restaurant food, takeaway, all of it is extremely high in sodium. When sodium spikes sharply, your body holds on to extra water to keep itself balanced. That extra fluid sits just under the skin, pushes the number up, makes you feel puffy and heavy. Put all 4 of those together and you have 3 kilos. A perfect recipe for disaster. Gut mass, glycogen, water and sodium, none of it is new body fat. It is essentially a fake number. Now I want to explain the glycogen piece properly because this is the one that surprises people the most, right? So your body has short-term storage systems. Understand this. When you eat more carbs than usual, the excess tops up your glycogen stores in your muscles and your liver also. When people say to me, I'm doing fasted cardio the following day because I've got no carbs in my system. No, you do. There's some in muscle, and let's say it's a 48-hour fast, you've still got some in your liver. Glycogen is stored in a hydrated form, basically, right? So every single gram of carbs stored as glycogen pulls in about 2 to 3 grams of water alongside it. So your muscles act exactly like a sponge, and this is healthy, and this is what happens in the body. So 1 part carbohydrate brings around 2 to 3 grams of water, okay? Which means when you eat more carbs than usual across a wedding weekend, the scale jumps quickly because you are essentially carrying hidden water. Basically, that's all it is, right? And it's kind of ballooning you up almost. So that's the real weight on the scale. But it's not a sudden explosion in body fat. It might feel like that. It is your muscles being fuller and more hydrated than normal. Completely fine for the body to do. The moment you return to your usual eating, the glycogen depletes when you start to exercise, the water releases and the number drops. That's it. Now here's another piece of the picture that makes complete sense once you see it. Body weight regulation is dynamic, right? It interacts with what you eat, how much energy you use, and your water balance. It doesn't sit there like a simple calculator. Think about this, right? When you eat a heavy meal later than usual, if you have it let's say at 10 p.m., the food takes time to process. So when you slow down as the evening progresses, digestion slows down as well. We know this. So the next morning, more undigested food is still sitting inside your tract, or your digestive system. It's not been processed properly yet. And it hasn't moved through entirely, especially if you have a high fat and high fiber meal, because that slows digestion down. All right, so think about like morning traffic on a motorway, right? The late night lamb karai is still sitting in the queue. not going anywhere fast. The reality is you physically weigh more because it is literally just more matter mass inside of you. Like, that's it. You've not created fat cells. You're just carrying that nice dinner, basically, right? This is why without glycogen in the water, the scale would still be higher in the morning after a big meal, purely from physical weight of undigested food in your system. Hopefully that's making sense. I hope you're following this. Now here's a distinction that changes everything, right? So there's a massive difference between being heavy and actually getting fatter. Okay, I don't like using that word, but it's true. And most people treat them as the same thing. And this is why, weight loss rates are shockingly low, because people can't stick to it because they get thrown off. Being heavy is temporary. It happens after 1 to 3 days of eating above your usual level, and that biological causes, as I said, glycogen, water, sodium, gut content. Even if you've not peed, for example, right? If you've had a long haul flight and you've not been able to go to the bathroom, I mean, I can't pee on flights, right? And whenever I go to the airport, without disclosing too much, I can pee for a long time. Probably guessing, it's probably 200 to 300 grams worth, all right? So that can contribute to your weight as well. So the scale spikes fast and dramatically. 2 or 3 kilos overnight can happen. Your body is processing a sudden influx of volume. The antidote's simple, right? So return to your normal eating, wait 48 hours, do some exercise, maybe get some steps in, and the scale will come back down on its own. That's it. You see, gaining body fat is an entirely different process. And that happens when, repeated calorie surpluses over and over. So I think if you have, from what we've observed, if I've seen people overeat on calories, let's say for 7 to 10 days or more, that's what causes actual, what we call adipose tissue. Body fat cells filling up, and that's how you get body fat on you, right? So the scale creeps upwards slowly, and it's not like a dramatic spike. Okay, that's a good thing, I guess. So after a wedding weekend, you're almost like always dealing with the first situation, that kind of temporary blip. I've dealt with it before in the past as well, but because the number, it looks so dramatic, your brain reads it at the second, and then that starts to play in your head and you start to spiral a little bit, all right? So I want everyone to know that fat cells are not evil. Let me explain how real fat storage actually works, because this will make the full picture click into place, right? So your fat cells are not your enemy. They're just storage units. Their only job is to safely hold excess energy when more energy comes into your body. Real body fat gain happens, right, when you do nothing. You sit on your backside all day, you develop poor habits, and you give it more energy than it needs. So a couple of days is fine, but if you're consistently sitting on your backside and overeating foods and takeaways, etc., that's what causes fat cells to what we call spill over, right? Think of your fat cells like Tupperware in a Desi kitchen, right? We've got so many of them, biscuit tins as well. In the early stages of consistent overeating, your existing fat cells simply expand and get bigger. They fill up with more stored, what we call triglycerides, right? That's called hypertrophy, basically. It's like stuffing more food into the Tupperware that you already own. So with prolonged and sustained overeating over a longer period of time, the body can actually create brand new fat cells to deal with, and that's overflow. And that's like having to go out and buy more Tupperware because your cupboards are full, essentially, right? But the crucial point is this: one day of bringing home extra groceries does not turn your house into a warehouse. One wedding, one Eid, a bridal shower, a takeaway, whatever it might be, it does not produce the fat gain that the scale is showing you. But here's the thing though, and this is where the science gets really important for you specifically, right? There's a question most people ask at this point, and the honest answer to it will completely reframe how you think about big eating days. The question is there a point where overeating actually tips into real fat gain? And the answer is a bit more nuanced than you might expect, sadly. So to be completely scientifically honest with you, fat storage does happen when there is a surplus energy available, so calorie surplus. So it's the opposite of a calorie deficit, which you might have seen online. If the surplus on day one is massive, a tiny amount of fat is technically being stored, right? But human physiology is not a neat calculator. What you see on the scale in a short 48-hour window is so heavily distorted by water, glycogen, gut, your menstrual cycle, there's so much going on here. It's very hard to assess body fat gain. You cannot go to Boots, put your hand on the rail and expect it to tell you how much body fat you've got. It's very hard to assess. The rule of thumb is this, okay? A day or two of overeating is usually not enough to create a noticeable fat gain, all right? It's repeating it over and over and over 5, 6, 7, 8 days. So day 1 and day 2 of a big eating period, you're mostly dealing with water and gut mass. But day 5 and beyond, if the surplus continues, you sit on your backside, you develop poor habits, then yeah, you might gain some body fat, and that's very real, and you have to accept that. Volume plus time equals body fat. A single big eating day is just a temporary blip, but a repeated surplus stacked up is what causes you to gain body fat, and that's the problem. And how do you assess it? Well, take some pictures, check out your clothes. If your clothes are feeling a bit tighter for like 2 or 3 days, try it again in like 7 to 10 days. And if it's still quite tight, it means sadly you have gained body fat. So hopefully that makes sense. So what do you actually do? The answer is simple, and I want you to leave today with this clearly in your head. When you see that number on a Monday, I'm just using Monday as an example, right? Step off the scale and stop staring at it. Get straight back to your normal eating routine today. Not next Monday, not after one more bad meal. Today, even look at the number, accept it, own it, and bloody move on. Drink normal amounts of water, not excessive amounts, as some kind of flush. Don't listen to anyone online. Move your body around the way you normally would. A walk to usual activity, nothing extreme, all right? Don't punish yourself. This is the important thing. The faster your pattern returns to normal, the less chance that temporary weight ever turns into genuine fat gain. And the smartest response to a brief period of overeating is never panic, because panic breeds the spiral every single time. The real problem is never the big eating day, it's usually what happens after that. All right, so what I want you to do is, if you've taken something from this video, awesome. What I want you to do is I want you to watch this next video talking about Ramadan, because we are still within Ramadan. Hopefully this video will be up in time. And I've got an eating system that's going to allow you to make sure you don't gain any more weight in the last couple of days of Ramadan. In fact, you could also do this out with Ramadan. Okay, it's not just Ramadan. It's a method called protein preloading. I made a video about this. Check it out, because I've used it with clients to this very day, and it's always kept overeating at bay. So before you go, check out that video.